A few years ago, I got an email, and it said that I'm a magnet for everything in my life. And at that point, I started to go through some transformations. And I noticed that everything in my life started to fall apart. I lost my job. I was betrayed by my closest friends. And through this violent trauma, I went into my vortex and I grew and discovered and understood things that I don't know why it took me so long, and why it took such violence for me to understand those things.
Well, as we said earlier, we think you like the drama of it. because there is doesn't it feel better when you're not going to like this very much, but when you're a little hungry, doesn't food taste better? And when you're a little thirsty, doesn't something to drink feel better? And when you're a little tired, doesn't your bed feel extra good? There is something about this focusing that without knowing what you don't want, you can't know what you do want. You just wait too long sometimes to get yourself into alignment. So then it is a longer, harder stretch, but it doesn't ever have to be again.
Well, do know that those are blessings I find through having things that I think that I needed or wanted being taken away from me. I can have and be anything that I desire. It opens a road. So I find those things as blessings. And we'll call them blessings in the sense that when you know what you don't want, there is clarification about what you do want. But we will not go along with the conversation that says depriving myself of alignment is a necessary thing to expansion, because it isn't. As I realized being the magnet for everything in my life meant that I needed to start doing the things that were close to my heart and fulfilling my needs.
Before you go further, we're enjoying those words that you're offering, because a lot of people pick up on law of attraction in that way and call it a magnet, and we have as well. But we want to talk about something in light of what we've been talking about here, and then we want to hear everything that you have to say. So think about being a magnet, and meaning you're attracting to you, and let's use the words all cooperative components then, or all things that are vibrationally like that which is like unto itself is drawn. So and that's just really a fine conversation, isn't it? I'm a magnet. But now let's add to that scenario the fact that you are source energy and a physical being, and that you have potentially two vibrational vantage points, both of which are magnets. So here is the source energy part of you, magnet, and here's the physical you, magnet. And that explains how you get torn apart and why it has to be so dramatic. Mm-hmm. Did you get that? In other words, so the way it all fits together is your source energy, a part of you is here in this body. You explore and you ask, but you don't always go. But when you ask, that part of you becomes what you've asked for, and that magnet is summoning like things to it. But you're beating the drum of not enough. You're beating the drum of the betrayal. You're beating the drum of the injustice. You're beating the drum of the unfairness. So you're keeping that active. So now two very powerful aspects of you. And in fact, the more you know what you don't want, the more you ask for what you do want. So the more this calls you in a strong way. But because law of attraction. So law of attraction is the mechanism that is at the basis of that upheaval that you are describing. Mm-hmm. Isn't that good to know? Mm-hmm. And doesn't it make sense that the only way to stop the upheaval is to relax, get into that general place of well-being, allow yourself in the vortex, so that, can you imagine how good life would feel if that magnet that you are was all standing in the same place? So that law of attraction is gathering all of the cooperative components to that which is you, to that which is you, to that which is you, to that which is you. That's when ease and flow becomes the mantra of your life experience. We just thought it would be nice to point that out. And we know you understand it, having lived everything that you've lived. Yes.
It's true. When those things happened, it was a great relief. And forgiveness and understanding was all I could feel. I couldn't feel hate or anger because I have no control over other people's actions, and it is not my place to say what they did was wrong or right.
So would you say that the feeling of forgiveness is looking at a situation, pre-forgiveness is looking at a situation outside the vortex. Forgiveness is looking at the same situation from inside the vortex. Yeah. Now what forgiveness is? Just looking at it through the eyes of source. And what you've really forgiven is yourself. What you've really done is release the resistance that's keeping you all strung out and apart from who you are. We've been saying for a long time, don't forgive them because they deserve it, even though they do. Don't forgive them, forgive them for you. And so our way of describing forgiveness is, you see, we've never forgiven anyone because we've never been outside the vortex condemning them to begin with. You have to be out of the vortex condemning before you can stop it and go in. Just shedding a little spiritual light on things.
Well, all I know is that negativity is very toxic to me. And my thought pattern was that I need to focus on what's next in the future, what's positive, what's good for me, where's my joy.
Good.
So in doing so, I've noticed that I'm finding my friends and family and people slipping away, and I'm struggling with following my heart and doing what makes me happy.
But here's the thing, you see, you can't notice a friend slipping away from inside the vortex. If you're noticing your friend slipping away, you're not in the vortex. Did you know that there is an in the vortex version of every one of them that you could be having a wonderful relationship with? Seriously. In other words, everyone you know, you have an in the vortex version of them. And so if you're noticing them slipping away, that's not the version you're having a party with.
I realize my purpose, why I chose to come here. And I believe that I asked those people to do those things to me to wake me up.
But you see, you've got to stop talking about those things those people did to you, or you can't hang around in the vortex.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is that I learned my purpose is to serve others.
No, it isn't.
Well, this is what I feel. You know, this is my purpose here is service.
Your purpose is to align with who you are, and in doing so, you uplift others. But but when you think your purpose is to serve others, then you got to go out of the vortex to gather them up, and then you've got nothing to serve them.
Good Lord. In any case,
you think that you may think that we're splitting hairs in the semantics that we're offering, but we're really good at reading energy. And it was our promise to you at the beginning of this day that we would stand in the vortex and call you in. And you're so on the brink.
I'm so on the brink. You got that right. I'm struggling with following my heart. And you've touched on this several times today.
We beat it to death.
Disappointment of others around you. And I'm a benevolent person, and I'm conscious of my footprint on this earth and the consciousness of
Stop it. That's old news. That's old news. All those footprints are being washed away by the tide as we speak. Not one of them is still there. Not one of them. Unless you focus back on them and use them as your excuse not to be who you are.
And that's my struggle. I have an open road.
You are the master of platitudes, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
So tell us again. We are enjoying this immensely.
I am too.
Tell us again what you're struggling with.
If you follow your heart, you do what makes you happy.
Well, now stop just for a second. If you follow your heart, you're syncing up with the wholeness of who you are.
Yeah.
That if you follow your heart, you you tap into the energy that you really are. And that's the only place that you can find joy. In other words, joy is, that feeling of joy is alignment. And the feeling of not joy is pulling apart from who you are. So you speak it like it's an option that we are no longer willing to afford you. In other words, you say, if I follow my heart, and we say, not if, when, since I follow my heart. Let's make it a more defined, for sure thing. Since I follow my heart.
Since I follow my heart, I struggle with how it affects my relationships.
Struggle while you're following your heart. You never ever struggle.
When I'm following and doing what I want to do, it causes turmoil in my life that I am working on ignoring, because it is not another person's place to dictate for me how I should follow my path in life.
But here's the thing. This is where it's going wrong for you. So when I follow my heart, which means I go into the vortex, and now I'm aligned with in the vortex version of them, but they're irritated because I'm not doing what they want. I'm following my heart. But if I don't notice that they're irritated, I stay in the vortex. But if I notice they're irritated, now I'm out of the vortex and I'm no longer following my heart. Right. In other words, you can't have it both ways. No. When you're in, and so the key to this is you got to care more about being in the vortex than you care about their response to you. That's what unconditional love is. Unconditional love is being in vibrational alignment with love, because that's who you are and that's what you choose, and allowing all others to just deal with it. And they either will or they won't. But do you know, the likelihood of them coming into the vortex and joining you is much greater if you maintain your vortex and don't try to please them, than if you keep scrambling out and trying to do what they think. Because if you hear all of the flawed premises otherwise, if you go out of the vortex, if you don't follow your heart and instead you do what you think they need you to do, what happens is you train them into only feeling good when you behave the way they want you to. So there are so many things wrong with that, most of which they never have a chance of finding out about their vortex, because they're not ever expected to. In other words, the best thing that anybody could ever do for another person is to just disregard how they feel. That seems backwards to you, doesn't it? Oh, I thought I was supposed to stand on my head and please them in as many different ways as possible. We say, when you do that, then they don't have to learn about their vortex. They just look you up and ask you to stand on your head and please them in some way. And then they get a moment of satisfaction, which they call happiness, which isn't even close to happiness. And then they hold you hostage because you need to always be there to perform in exactly the right way, or they won't be happy. And so now their happiness is dependent upon your behavior, and you're both trapped and you don't like each other anymore. Where if you just go to your vortex because that's where you belong, and you practice being there so you resonate with the vortex version of them, it is our promise to you. You will call them to you. A mother said one day when we were advising her sort of like this, and she said, well, won't my child, as a teenager, won't my child feel like I have forsaken him? If I refuse to see him in his now struggle, and I just stay happily in my vortex, won't my son feel like I have forsaken him? And we said, we didn't say don't think about him. We said think about the vortex version of him. We didn't say don't love him. We're saying love him from your vortex version. And we promise you that when you hold someone as your object of attention from inside the vortex, they don't feel like you have forsaken them, you see. We want to go back to something, because the reason that you're talking like this and the reason that you believe what you say is because some people hurt your feelings really, really bad. And you're not over it yet, because you still believe a little bit, you certainly believed it then, that your happiness depended upon what they did. And when they didn't hold up their end of the bargain, you got hurt, you see. And now your determination is not to ever do that to somebody else. So suddenly you got to be there for everybody to keep anybody from ever being hurt because of you. And we say, Nobody can ever be hurt because of you. They can only be hurt because they're not in alignment with their vortex. And you were not hurt because of them. You were hurt because you weren't in alignment with your vortex. So now, what do you want to teach them through the power of your example? You want to teach them about the vortex?